capstone event of the Transformation and Healing Conference. I thank all of you for being here, and I'm sure you'll be delighted today. I want to honor a few people around here. Catherine Ninos has been involved in the Transformation and Healing Conference for 30-some years. She and Robert started this 1,000,000 years ago, and it's been going every year since then. Our Vice President of Academic Affairs and Dean, Dr. Ann Philmeyer, is here. Rosvita Vulkins is back there. We taught here for 1,000,000 years. And another member of our Board of Trustees, Dr. Catherine Tijerina, is here. I know I'm going to miss somebody. Anyway, so welcome. And I couldn't be more delighted than to have Robert kind of tying up the conference this year. I'm guessing a lot of you are fans and have seen him before and actually back. And so I don't need to say a whole lot more about it. Robert is the founder of Southwestern College. He's president emeritus, sits on the board, and still contributes so much. He's just one of the most generous spirits in the world. He's always doing stuff with the school, for the school, on behalf of the school, and I'm just really happy to introduce Robert, and I'm sure you'll be a delight this afternoon, as always, and his lovely wife.
So you sound pretty calm before talks, and I was calm today too, but I started getting kind of, it's like I was going to be talking soon at the capstone event, and there's nothing going on here. And so I tell people in my class that's a good thing, because then something can show up, right? It's not part of something you thought of ahead of time. So, how many went all the way to the conference? Did things? Oh, just about half. That's good. So for you, it's a capstone event. For the other people, it's just, well, here we are. It's my nature when I present something to try to present everything that ever is, because that's the way I see things. It's all connected, it's all working, it's all this big process that's been going on, and I'm going to date myself now. It's a Reader's Digest version. You might know who the Reader's Digest is. So I thought, what would be a good way to just include everything in 3 hours? And then it occurred to me that just recently, though, about a minute ago, that perhaps since we've been around a while, we could just debrief on the last 2 million years. The like synopsis version. We have a current version of where we are and what we're up to. And I was going to say drop away how we got here, but when you debrief, you kind of take the whole trail and just roll it up inside of you and into a spiral, and there it is forever. And so there's no getting away from it, I guess. The only thing we can do is rearrange our relationship to it, so we can make a decision between the journey and ourselves, or this made up to get here. And that gives us a way to access it all. As long as you believe your journey, you can't, you just are subjected to it. You can't access it, like, you know, you access a library or something. But if you liberated yourself from it and pulled out of it the truth, and you can look at it, back at it, and then just it's all there, and you can pick out what you need to do whatever you're doing at the moment. This is a really nice place to sit. You can hear the water out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit of effort to not just take off with the water. So let me remind myself what I'm talking about here. There's this big long brochure, and there's a tiny paragraph right at the end. That's me. They said, what's a capstone of man? What's a tiny paragraph all about? Anyway, the many faces of love. So that may not make sense from your perspective, but from my perspective, it makes a lot of sense. Because I'm looking out from here. So if you just, with a little bit of effort, you could look out from here and see everybody the way I'm seeing them. It's kind of cool, huh? Yeah, some of you did that, so we're starting off really well here. For me, a presentation is more of a journey than a presentation because it's experiential. So we always start out by, anticipation's good. You know, that moment you're expecting. I haven't said anything yet, so you're not judging yet. So you're pretty present, see? And you haven't been here long enough to get tired, so you're not regretting being here. All those things that take you out of the present haven't happened yet. So we can really be here and be pretty solid and start settling into our space. And a wonderful thing happens as we settle into our own space, it becomes one space. See, and then we have the context in which, in a sense, depending on how you look at this, the universe can meet us, or God can meet us. So, we're in that kind of rarefied space that nothing's competing with except our own intention, our own ability to stay, use your will to pay attention to yourself. Usually we pay attention to ourselves in a way that distracts us, like I've got to do this, I'm worried about this, I've got to fix this, or that was so embarrassing, or you have some other theory about your existence that you're trying to defend or support or protect in some way. So it's really hard to just pay attention to yourself. So practice paying attention to yourself. Is that access into the loving, into the presence of God, into the presence of your soul. And that's your key to everything. Nothing else to do now. How you doing? Pretty good? You like yourself better than when you came in? I like to check to see how we're doing. So the closer you get to yourself, the more you feel belonging. So it's like an index or a measure. The closer you get to self, the more there's the loving. And you can tell when you're really far away from yourself because you can't feel it. You can't experience it, so you know you're like you've really gotten lost someplace. And so then the best thing to do is just stop everything else and try to find out what you did with yourself and get back to that so you can engage. There's so much going on these days, and you hear so many versions of what people are saying is the truth. They're trying to tell you what you are and how you should be. And it's all got these, glamorous names and studies behind them that they're finding out were fake anyway. So I don't have to keep up with the news. So the only way you can really sort things out is yourself. And so that implies that there's a place you can reside within yourself that is a measure of all things, that can measure all things, and that has a truth to it. And again, that's the loving. I know a lot of people using that have become, I guess, cliche. At least the 60s version we used to use is kind of a little bit off now. But the one we're getting into now is a little different. There's a place, an essence, an experience of the loving that has no definition or judgment on it. It's more easily accessed today. And the more crazy the world gets, the easier that's going to be. Because you have to turn to it because you can't find your way by, you can't use traffic signs and maps so well anymore. Or you can't determine if the person sitting next to you is going to blow up or not. See, so you have to have some way to guide yourself. And that's that one into that dimension is how you do it. And so you can measure whatever you're hearing. Does it resonate with that loving? Does it expand me inside in that warmth and security? See, or does it contract it? See? So you begin to learn your somatic awareness so that, when there's shifts in the field, you feel viscerally and bodily, consciously. We do that all unconsciously anyway. That usually gets us into reactions because we don't know that, the ghosts and the demons pop up. And they're just looking for love too, but we think they have to do with something aggressive. So whatever we're doing is to learn how to find that reference inside. And so, in the title of the consciousness, the diversity of healing in consciousness. In some ways, I don't know how consciousness could be diverse because it's just itself. You get the point though, because in the title. So one of the things that's saying is that you have all these different models and people's perspective and what they discovered. So in this discernment, there's a kind of a perspective that I think is very helpful, and that's when you debrief on your, the last 200,000 years, you start getting this perspective because you've been around long enough to kind of start connecting some dots. And in your own experience, you've had probably several worldviews to this point that you created and had to destroy because of circumstances or disappointment. Disappointment's even a helper because it showed you that where you were relying on something to make you better, say for good, wasn't true because it didn't turn out. See, and it didn't measure up to the loving because it disappointed. If it had been true, it would have expanded the loving. So you know that disappointment's a false god. But there's a an impulse within that, the different versions of yourself that you've invented and recreated. And that's it, there's some impulse that drives it. And that impulse is really your own spirit, your soul. And it's the same unconditional loving that holds and moves creation. So it's moving through you. See, so it's, I like to look at it and say, well, you know, what's the problem? Loving's gonna have its way. You know, just keep up. Well, get over yourself. But, so each version that doesn't work is just cleaning up junk, misunderstanding. So the more mistakes you can make, the quicker the better. Because eventually it'll start, this impulse to push you into life and to do things it starts purifying itself. Life's set up to do that, you know. You move into life, it reflects back to you, and it brings the whole unconscious up before you, so you can make it conscious and deal with it. And the impulse behind this is loving, so you're never going to feel satisfied or fulfilled until the reflection back matches the impulse of loving within. And when those match, you feel satisfied, you feel safe. See? So all your fears and heartaches and all that stuff are helping you, see? Because they're giving you information about how to realign yourself. And sometimes you don't even have to do anything with them because they're so busy doing stuff to you. So try to be a victim as much as possible. Because you'll get there quicker. They'll just tell you right where you had a misunderstanding about, you know, where the power was. See? This is just a warm-up. I don't know what I'm going to say yet. Well, so more warm-up. So then all the models that people presented and what they present, and you could even experience the same model presented by two different people differently. And that's because they're different. They're working at a different level from it. So each model is evolving out of somebody's interest in trying to either help themselves or help somebody else make something better or resolve something in some way. All of them come out of that. Sometimes it gets a little scientific because of whether they're curious. So they're messing with people out of their curiosity. But that's a form of love too. So in the process, so each model comes out of somebody's experience of life and reflecting on it to resolve something, some reality, some relationship, some culture, some trauma that caught somebody's sense of themselves, belief about themselves in a form that's alien to their soul, so to speak. And so it gets very precise, like someone deals with ancestors, someone deals with trauma, some historical trauma. See, so everybody has their little area they're working in here. But it's all out of the same impulse, so you put them all together and you have a really complete selection of what someone might need. See, so part of the effort is to get them with the right, not only the right model. God's very good about this, you know. You can have many models as you want because it just meets you where you are. So, you know, a lot of these models are just ways to talk to God because you make up a system and then God knows how to talk back to you. And how, you know, you say, well, I'm just going to be seen in terms of this model and this approach and meet me there. And Spirit does that, because it's unconditional loving. And then, but the thing is, you keep refining. So at some point, it gets so refined that you tap into the universal relationship of it. So all the models are doing that. And then you have the people using them. So this is where you might have some problems. Because one practitioner will be in that model because they love that area, love that perspective, love that population. And it's a way for them to be an expression of their love and the transformative power of that. And that's our native self anyway. So they find a home with this, and they just keep refining in that area of participation. But then the practitioner, next, see, they have this soul perspective, and they have this ego perspective. And the ego's fine because it's a workshop. It's something it's like coming dress up through our lifetime, so we can do these different things. And the only problem is we believe they're real. We get stuck in them, and everybody tells us it's real, and either with positive or negative feedback. So I gotta watch changes because then I get off the thing and I can't find anything. Well, yeah. So somebody else might be in the same counseling perspective, same models, same population, but they have just a lot of issues they haven't cleared up themselves. Like if they're operating from inadequacy, then the therapist has to be adequate through their performance or through their getting you better, and so that distorts. See, or they have a trauma or a shame that they're protecting, and it's unconscious, and so they're going to work out of whatever their relationship to you as a client is. They're also going to train you to help them protect their issue. So they're never going to be able to get to that one for that person. Now, this other one they solve, they could probably help you with. See, so it's not like they're useless or entirely dangerous. Like you hope that they get clients that have the same karma they do, and you get to mix it up. See, but so we just can pray for that. They get clients that need to be karmically screwed up the way they screw people up. That's a positive view, right? But use everything to your advantage, everything to be helpful. So I was going to go off on another track, but I better stick to one I'm on before I forget what I'm talking about. So we get what's going on here. So you'll have a therapist that maybe they invented the model, so they're really identified with it. And so they have to preserve or promote or push the model on you because this enhances their humanity. So they're real advocates of it in a way. Because this is who they think they are. They invented it. So there's a compensation for inadequacies the person hadn't cleared up. They're more fear-based than love-based. They're motivated to be involved in this helping activity. So that distorts the model, and so somebody might look at that and say, "Oh, you're really hurting these clients," and they probably are. Maybe it appears that way. You're certainly helping them take longer to deal with their issues than they maybe need to, because then they have to not only deal with the trauma they have to deal with you as a trauma, and maybe that's more conscious, so that helps them. I don't know, but. It's a concern. So in our reflection on our 200,000 years, we come up with that aspect of ourselves. That are we? I'm pretty conscious here. I'm pretty enlightened. I'm pretty loving. But then there's always some little gremlin in there someplace, or somebody to protect them. Sometimes you practice listening to yourself talk or what triggers you, and you can get hints into where you haven't cleaned something up yet. So I think to be ethical, all you have to just keep up with the cutting edge of your own reflection and your own self-awareness. One of the things that I think I can manage to get back to right up if I go up on this side of the town. You know, here we're at Southwestern, we're concerned about counselor education and stuff. And it makes sense. We're training therapists, so that's what we're doing. From my perspective, there's 3 areas that a person always needs to look at for themselves to keep to keep resolving your issues, so you're more awake, more conscious of yourself, clear. So when you look at what is out here, you really see what's out here instead of your projection of what's out here. And so that you wake up enough in your center so you can start measuring accurately. And so, and this is my experience of most presenters in these conferences is that they're onto this, so it's a good thing. And this is one is so there's 3 things: spiritual practice. And what's that? That's any focused activity that begins to develop your will so it can access deeper dimensions of consciousness, deeper into your soul awareness, and more transcendent into the greater realities. So much, you have this conscious realm, and then you have these other dimensions that are also here and affecting us, but we're not conscious of them, we're conscious of the relationship. So you begin to train it well into these spiritual practices. It begins to exercise that solic muscle, so that the distance to you bringing your soul forward or moving into it is not so far away. See, because it's easier to find, has more energy. Most practices build up in a way that you bring your attention back to whatever the spiritual focus is. Whether using images or sound or a spiritual sound or visualizing the place or some other kind of chanting, intentional practice to keep building your energy. And that keeps strengthening that, it keeps activating it. And then as you bring more energy in and through you, it starts to move through your unconscious and push more stuff up to the surface. And so you deal with things more rapidly. So that's a very important aspect. And it assists you to easily form affinities with people with essence. So that when you're sitting down with someone in a counseling situation, and that vibration, that resonance starts because you pay attention to it, and they would like to get conscious of it. So, it's still good, but it's on the way. And so the second one is just some kind of committed, transformational process with yourself in terms of, it is a tricky thing, not improving yourself, not getting better, and just moving more with that process of your own awakening. And so there's a lot of different approaches to this. You can do processes, go to trainings, that to begin to help you heal your traumas, sort out the truth from the false, reframe concepts, make peace with your ancestors. See, all these are kinds of practices that begin to refine you. And from the way I look at it, it's important to look at this in terms of not what's wrong with you so you can fix it and be more spiritual, because that just creates another obstacle inside of you. We're already as spiritual as we're going to get. We just are lost. See, so in each one of these issues and stepping stones and things you're working with inside are part of that process of re-engaging yourself. So there's really nothing to fix. However, you're in a dysfunctional reality. So it is good to change your reality. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so even when we work with self-forgiveness, it's not forgiving yourself for what you did, it's forgiving yourself for what you decided about. Like I'm bad, awful, evil, terrible because of what I did. No, you're just stupid. No problem. That's fine. So, anyway, you get the picture. See, so how can I then, in my practice with myself, I think a good guideline is use everything to become more loving. So no matter what you do, what you find, what you've been injured with, find a way to use it to become more loving. See, that just puts it all in perspective. Does that make sense? The third one is what I call your relationship with the Holy Spirit. Now that's a little, I know a Christian connotation, we can call it the Great Spirit, we can call it the Spirit of Life, we can call it the Spirit of Loving. In other words, there is a sentient, conscious, intelligent, loving energy that on your engagement can work in and through you with whatever you're doing. It is in a spiritual spectrum of unconditional love, so you have to ask. See? So if you've been abandoned, it's your choice to ask. But so you learn to be sensitive to the Spirit and how it comes into your life and allow it to do the work. See? So 90% of what we do is set up the condition for the Holy Spirit, or the loving, or the living love, or Great Spirit. It's an active energy. We're made to be a conduit of this. So if we're not doing it, it's because we learned to prevent it and opt out of flow. But we'll flow with something. We're made to be a conduit of something, so whatever you're obsessed with or addicted to, you'll be channeling that one. So something's going to come to you. So I recommend the Holy Spirit. And you can really treat it like a person if you want, because you can have a conversation. It has access to more intelligence than you have stored in your brain, that's for sure. And then it makes you look very brilliant. So learning to be friends with that energy. Self-work is to develop a greater loyalty to your soul. Spiritual practice is to give you greater access to your soul. So those are the three realms you work in. In terms of then whatever model you're working in, That's a structure or form. So there's always this, realities really generate our relationship between essence and whether form we constructed. So just to make it simple, the essence is the love and the impulse to that. And then we in the mirror, this all reflected, somewhat reflects back to us. We start making stuff up and that creates the form. So that since the ego's a form, you've invented, good job. But you're never done. And then there's the soul, the impulse of spirit that works with that. So we're always working with that relationship. So when you're working with a therapy model or approach to therapy or population, that's a form. And so that's going to give you a context, it's going to give you access points. How are you to be aware of how to respond to that in a therapeutic way? You need to start tapping into the essence of where you get that, well, from your own essence, your own relationship to it. But also how to peer. See, we have these levels that go out, and the furthest one is it's like a cosmic mirror, and then behind that's the soul of everyone coming forward, and you too. Rudolf Steiner had this very helpful statement. So he said, your soul's always approaching you from the horizon. See, so you in a sense, like I'm looking out here, seeing the many faces of my soul coming back from the horizon. And so I can find out a lot about myself very rapidly. And maybe one or two I'll forgive myself for. So with your, so you trust your perspective, you trust your model, you trust your education, and then you trust your spirit. So to line all this up so that both the loving energy comes through you, and you can see the loving face of God through your client, through your context. You practice being present. There's a lot of ideas about this, but it's a very simple process in just being where you are. And so that's not an idea of where you are. It takes both a transcendent awareness and a somatic awareness in a relationship to earth and sky, so to speak. Because you take some of that practice of your spiritual exercise and hold awareness in a way that's not being pulled into the regrets of yesterday or the worries of tomorrow. See, now this is almost impossible if you live in a fear-based reality. So most people are, they may be present in an emergency, like they smack their car into a phone pole or somebody hits them with that. That gets their attention and they're there. See, so some people need a crisis to shock them. So I guess those encounter groups who run in the 60s had somebody because they really, you gotta pay attention to that person screaming at you. But there's other things going on that kind of, there's too much turmoil to really get the value out of that. So just practicing being present. So as I'm talking about it, so it's like, well, there's an awareness of your body. See every cell of your body, and you bring your loving present and see what that's like. Observing is a good way if you watch yourself. So you feel a shift in the room when people become more present. And when, some distracts you, bring yourself back. if you judge yourself like, oh darn, I lost my focus, then you're really screwed. You have to really work and do that, come back and forgive yourself and get back present. It also helps to like yourself, to be present. Like if you hate your body or hate yourself or have all these judgments about yourself, then it's hard to hang around here. So this is the location that you have to be present in. See, so it's really important to like this one, like this one. Be understanding if you have aches and pains, like, yeah, I understand, sweetie, it's okay, we're working it. See, then you can be present with that. See. The more you can accept yourself, the easier it is to accept the client that's in front of you. So. And if there's a place you don't accept yourself, you'll look around the room and find somebody to judge. And that way, I'm not present with myself on that one. That was given back to me. So become active in that presence and add to it, like when you speak, you listen to yourself speaking, because the frequency of your voice will resonate to being present or away from yourself. Like when you speak the truth, your truth, you'll have a resonance. When you say something that's truth about with the person you're with, it'll resonate there too. So you listen to the quality of your voice. You know, is it flat? Is it stressed? Is it so that's a good way to do it. Be aware of your breathing. So you really are modeling unconditional love. That's the currency here. It accesses everything. So the next piece of that then is you're present with what is, and that means totally accepting with what is. See, so if the person in front of you smells bad, you just accept it. See, if they're, a neo-Nazi, you're accepting. So whatever they're doing, however they're saying it, if they seem to be, defending their issue, you just accept that, 100%. Even if you're saying, well, I just put up with this now because as long as it gets better later. So that's not being present, not accepting. So this sets up a very nice situation. Then you just see what you notice. So you get a sense of this. You're present in a way that you're looking out at the universe, it's looking back at you. That's a big one. I should try that on top of a mountain sometimes. and be present. It's not a passive presence either, because you're looking for what you notice. And so perhaps the person said something and just in the tone of their voice, you pick up on something. You notice that. What's that about? You may not be saying anything, but as soon as you do that, you tune in. It's just an access. You start accessing the tone of their voice. And it's not a brain, you don't try to figure it out. See, once you access it, you're in a vast relationship. This is where the Holy Spirit comes in. You're in a vast relationship that has access to not only all the intelligence, but all the information. So it doesn't, not very ego gratifying because you don't get to know something or be important, you just have to pay attention. And so that'll start guiding the process. And then you may notice that whatever you heard in the voice gets exaggerated when you're talking about a certain certain things. You know, like they start talking about a person or a time in their life, you notice that distortion really got. And this would be so subtle, most people miss it. See? So then you might say more about that. See? So this begins a dialogue. Dialogue is different to debate, conversation. See, those all have different purposes, they change differently. But the dialogue is, I call it, it's like two logos, dialogue, like two voices of the Spirit talking. So when you're present with, in dialoguing, this, it starts providing a track for the therapeutic process to follow. And as the transformation starts to move on the dialogue. See, so all you have to do is keep noticing and keep talking. Listen. See. If you have a preconceived idea about the person, you're not listening. You're actually blocking yourself or them from the process. See, I found it's very magical. You get to a point where the epiphany or the essence of this just like pops up. And you may not even say anything and they get it. You can always tell when the Spirit touches in there to the place it needs it because the emotions start to move. Some people are very dramatic emotionally, some people you may just notice the quality of their eye changes, and that's the emotion. So you can't have a standard like, oh, when the Spirit touches, they look like this. See, then you're getting into religion again. And so you just look for qualities like that. Or the skin changes. There's a different quality goes across this. You should learn to notice these things. And so when you do that, then you just watch it do itself. And this is really hard if you're a really ambitious do-gooder. It thrives on, self-satisfaction of rescuing people. So you're better off helping because you can't help yourself than helping yourself. It's somebody else's cycle to help yourself. So that's the process. And you may find that the model you're using works much better that way. Or if it needs additional revisions. I got in trouble with the archetypal psychology group here once because I really thought they had a great model. But I could see that the archetypes were another form. Their structure, very powerful and very deep. But going through the soul, through those archetypes. So I was suggesting that maybe with the soul acting through the archetypes. Well, then I was a heretic, so we didn't talk after that. See, so everybody gets their religion going around. It's very dangerous, I think. Dangerous. I mean, nothing lasts. Nothing stays dangerous. It just seems like it because it's been going on so long. Well, if we stop being dangerous, that'll contribute to dangerous going away. So dangerous is still in the world. You must still have some work to do with yourself to clear that up inside, because we're contributing to the whole process. So when you take that and put it on some of your experience working with clients, does it make sense? Reflect back on your work with people. See, oh yeah, I have moments of that where it just seemed to flow that way. See, so the trust in the process. Again, without love will have its way, and so you have to work with that. And so what you're also then able to start putting yourself in service to is tracking their process. You start to track them as they move through their own wilderness. It's like you might track an animal in the forest. You start getting the scent, getting the trail, getting the sense of where it's going. and you start working with them to facilitate that journey. See, and because that journey is always lined up with loving on one end and crap on the other, they're going to keep track until this gets reworked in the process of life. So the counseling setting is really a microcosm of their life process. So whether you're working with dance or art, or whether you're working with the media, all helps that, because any media they make is an expression of that unconscious and will reflect back. And so that just becomes insight into that. Any questions about anything so far? See, I'm asking because I got nothing now at the moment. So you must have something. Yes.
In the beginning, I wasn't really understanding exactly what you mean by the loving coming through, because I've done a lot of spiritual work and spiritual practice, and I know about focusing on focusing on myself, but I don't experience that as love necessarily. So, but then you later talk about,
Yeah, go ahead.
well, then you later sort of defined it as warmth and security.
That's a symptom.
Which helped me to understand how to identify that, because warmth and security are things that I can identify, okay, that's kind of what you were talking about, but I don't really experience love in myself.
Yeah. That's going to make a wisecrack, huh?
You can if you like.
Yeah. See, I've been known you very long, but I would suspect anybody in a few minutes would just experience how incredible loving you are. See, it's just your nature. So I think you're just so used to it that you haven't been made conscious of it. And so likely it's a situation where people didn't teach you words for it growing up. Either it was so implicit, it was so part of everything, or everybody just stayed away from it. Something. So if we did, so you can get the, well, that's what this is. So, see, in a way, even a negative experience is loving. It's just not finished yet.
Yeah.
It needs a few more renditions to sort itself out, so the untrue stuff falls off and then the loving's there. So, when we talk about God as unconditional loving, it's like, wow, there's so much stuff in the world, how can that be? Well, then you have to really consider, well, what does unconditional loving look like? See, that's like, I'll love you regardless. So if you want to blow up your city, I'll love you. If you want a city to blow up, I'll help you make it. See, that's unconditional loving. However, there's a caveat in that there's a process going on. There's a transformational force inside of people that are colluding at a level to bring the planet into more loving. So the loving can take place. See, so what we're calling spirit or God is they're in touch with that. So in our present state, we're not so in touch with that. See, so we can have doubts or wonder, like, oh, really? So the best we can do is acceptance, like, okay, I'll accept and watch it, I'll see what happens. But, often, I mean, when the war's over, people start fixing things, and the loving comes out, and in the end, it's loving. There's a lot of grief to handle, but that's a process of loving. There's a lot of healing to do, but that's loving. So it's gonna end up in the loving. So this is a bit big for us in the moment, you know, have to accomplish your love at that level at this point. But just to consider that, you know, this loving is so part of you. So you may not notice so much. And you know, just in the tone of your voice, your voice is not separate from you. You can feel the resonance of the loving. I can hear it. And so you might just start paying attention to it more. So like up your semantic awareness, so you can sense what that, so you can tell the difference between one frequency and the other. Neutrality, joy, caring. When you set something on a counter, do you bang it or you just set it gently on the counter? What do you do?
Think about it, but probably gently.
Just pay attention.
Yeah.
So pay attention. That's loving. Banging it down's indifference. When you are serving somebody a plate of food, you just drop it on the table, you just set it there and regard them when you do it. So what are you experiencing right now?
More energy moving.
More energy moving. That's loving.
I wouldn't have thought of it that way before, but.
Yeah. Just a reframe. Whoa, that energy is loving. And if you feel like tight, painful, that's energy attempting to become more loving. And it's a little work. It's starting to make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're probably quite aware. See, oh, this energy I feel is loving. See, when you look out and look, you know, it's sunset, you look at the forest, you feel peace. That's the loving. It is everything. And it's the deepest frequency, so it permeates everything. So we just have to get you like, select that one. See, you've been selecting it a long time. Because I mean, it's so close to you. Never occurred to you were that loving. Does anybody know her in here? Am I making sense? Does it fit her profile? Yeah. I mean, you like to hang around her because of that. See? Yeah. And so that, see, the brother, so that's amplified. You feel more energy now. Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just set up a conversation that activated more loving. So you spoke to that love.
Yeah, I'm getting it now, getting it.
Yeah. Nice, huh? So, yeah, so we open up to that between us and it starts getting larger. And it's, you know, moves around the whole room. See, and that's the Holy Spirit. You can call it Great Spirit or anything else. You want, but it's the same thing. Anything else? Be glad to ask.
Yes.
Me too, it always feels good. So again, that was just being present, noticing, commenting, dialoguing, and then just start moving our consciousness. These deep intentions just guide us. The spirit within us does the work. Because of the way we're made, we can play this. Any other questions about so far? Yes.
Do you think it's possible to resolve everything?
Sure. No, we could like get some clarification, like everything on the planet, everything in your life.
Oh, everything in your life, in your personal.
In your life, yeah.
Yeah, that you were talking about.
I would say you can't avoid it, it's because the way we're made. Now, I would guess you would have aspirations to accomplish that in this life. Right, like in this body, in this, whatever scenario you got going this time. Yeah. Just by, I gave you the parts, like what to pay attention to. You keep doing those things and it just moves along. There's another question on that, what's that?
What was the question? I just let it go because I thought I didn't need to ask it.
So someplace in there, like, oh, you must have already known.
But, yeah, I mean, I almost didn't ask the first question. It just seems like it's gonna happen. Anyway, we're made this way.
Yeah, and there's something about sharing that makes it, it solidifies it, makes it stronger, expands it. See, just like us talking about it, even though you already have the answer. See, it's like it communes with me having the same answer. And that's called fellowship. And see, that brings more energy in, more loving, and expands us. See? And so, if you have a tendency to be introverted, it helps you do that. So you'll take your own peace more often and more easily. So this other thing is really what's maybe going on. See, it's like practice. See, so I'm more comfortable speaking out and being relaxed in front of, a group. Even saying something I already know the answer to, because it comes from a loving place. Now, other people ask questions sometimes that already know the answer, but they're just trying to impress me or the people in the room. See, that's a manipulation. But you didn't do that. So the place you came from inside just opens up a bigger place for you. See, and that's cool. I think it's cool. All right. We love this now. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. Any other questions thus far? Oh, you had your hand up.
But just the same thing happened when I started to ask the question, and I already got the answer.
See, isn't that cool? Yeah, that's what we're after.
It was about seeming to be able to only be aware of love between one person at a time, so the answer I got from that is that one person includes all.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So we trust that. It's like this saying, use everything in your life to become more loving. And that's a very powerful practice because that's what's going to make the transformation, that's what's going to allow the transformation of the world into loving. So that's, so we do it. We're the least of it, so we do it to the least of it, and it doesn't everything. So in a sense, when you take that up, you're making a choice for reality, the planet. You're waving, you have a question?
I have a question.
Are you coming up for air?
You said that part of love is that we love everything and everybody, and this is what I understood, that if somebody's gonna blow up the city, we have to love that. And if, you know, Hitler came into our life, we should love that.
Yeah. So-
I just can't relate to that
Yeah,
because,
it's the way you have it framed inside, because you have to and should. And as soon as you hear those words, you know you're off into some other left field.
okay,
See, because that's based on a standard, like to measure to this, or to be good, to be spiritual, I need to behave like this or speak like this. See, so that's based on that's based your spirituality on a form, and it's always wrong in that sense. See, and it's a tough thing to shift ourselves over to. So we keep working at it. Like, so another thing I recommended was, you don't get that through acceptance. Like, I accept that that was said, and I don't have to be for it or against it. That's just very curious, and maybe at some point the universe will give me some more insight on this. Or I'll have a few more experiences that help with that. So it's that kind of context. So when I'm, you know, looking at something that appears negative and is hurtful for people, see, at a deep level, I relate to that, like, you know, what that human being is doing is coming from the same impulse I am. However, the trauma, the distortion is so heavy with that person that it comes out backwards. See? So instead of blessing the city, they're trying to blow it up. In both cases, they're trying to have an impact. See, so somewhere deep in there is that impulse, and so this happens. Now, I have my choice about how I'm going to respond to it. If I react and tie into it and go into hate and the same kind of behavior going to blow up your city, see, we're just doing the same thing. See? But if I'm staying my loving, it's not that I approve of that, and it doesn't preclude doing behavior to stop people doing that. See, but it may also then add to that behavior that looks for how to resolve that in the culture so it doesn't keep producing idiots like that. See, so I just keep following the loving.
okay.
So I relate first to the level loving is working, then look at the level of how it's manifesting, and say, well, it's 99% backwards here. And so, if I'm, the way I'm recommending it has, if I talk about the ways and means of the power of love, where's the most power here? Well, it's staying in my power, but also being, see, when I talk about being accepting or present with what is, that's like what being present with what is, not pretending like somebody didn't blow something up, not pretending like people are doing evil things, you know, not making excuses for it, or rationalizing you're trying to be, you know, falsely appear spiritual about it. I'm above that. See, not doing any of those things, it's just nitty gritty. Then, from that place, what can I do in response to that? See, well, if I hear about it in the news, the first thing that goes out is the loving, the light. I'm often reflecting on that myself to see, you know, which terrorist incarnation I haven't cleaned up yet, or what is there another way I'm cruel to someone, or emotionally explosive? See, do I burst out in anger? See, the same thing as blowing a city up, just smaller. See, so that's what I'm talking about. Does that make more sense?
It does.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
See, you're starting to track it inside now, right?
Yeah, it's something I have to like kind of shift my way that I think, I guess.
Yeah, and so So my experience was that you start to engage something inside and start to follow along with me.
Right.
In other words, you were on the same stream of information I was on. See, so now you can access that level. See, and that's called liberation. See, so you're freer now inside. And so you have more options in terms of what happens. More resilience.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it even feels good, doesn't it?
It does, thank you.
Well, let's take a break. Whatever that means. Afternoon sessions can be kind of challenging. So if anybody has a need to take a nap, feel free. Sometimes I used to fall asleep while I was giving a class. I mean, it looked like I was asleep. I was wide awake someplace. So if you do fall asleep, just you're wide awake someplace. Maybe you have to check something out. I like to, on a break, and at the end of a break, there's a lot of chatter going on. Why did he say something? I said, well, because everybody else is saying something. But I consider that chattering is important because it has to play, it's playing out some kind of energy. So I'm present, and I know it's going to start soon, but there's the odds and ends. And it may seem like you're just chattering about something not too important or very important to you. But anyway, it's finishing something. So, at some point, everybody just lost interest in chattering. Because this energy would come up enough to... the chattering was helping the energy come up, actually. That's the point I'm trying to make here. What do you want me to talk about now? Well, I have a couple things. I was sitting around earlier today, kind of tuning in, and so this is what my notes look like. So, little bits of stuff. Kind of interesting, and I was reading over them on the break, and noticed that I touched on all of them except for a couple here. And so I read this one and I wasn't too sure because it's kind of far out. But, I might as well take a chance on it and see where it goes. It's like opening up a book, open something up, and then see where it takes you. And then, I'll just read what I wrote here because it's. It is more about the nature of unconditional love. It's what I jotted down with it, what came to me was that God is a mystery to itself. It holds and surrenders at the same time. So if that's confusing, good, we're getting there. It seems right somehow that it holds and surrenders at the same time. When I wrote that earlier, I was trying to find an emotion that might relate to that. So, I guess it's like, when you have a child, your mother gives birth to a child, you hold a child, and you don't know what to do because they're all different, right? And so you have to surrender at the same time. See, and then somehow it seems to come to you what to do. And so, the child grows up and goes through things, and at some point they leave home, so you have to surrender some more. And then they do some awful things that you can't control, and so you have to surrender some more. And this can be played out many ways. I mean, they've even made some movies about it, yes. All movies are about it, maybe. But at some point it resolves, and, you know, along the way, you know, like these big epic stories about all the stuff people go through, and then at the end they're, you know, sharing, they're reminiscing, they're reflecting, they're debriefing on their 200,000 years. And just the loving's present. So then, it's kind of curious. So it could go any way, you know, it needs to. And there's a billion mothers and 2 billion kids, and at some point it resolves in this loving. So perhaps that's what God's like. It is holding and surrendering at the same time. So well, so often I ask, people always want to know, who am I? I always ask, what am I? Because I'm not sure. Because they keep finding out new things about what I am. There's a lot of mythology about what we are. And one of the ones I like is like we're a bridge between heaven and earth. So that opens a lot of opportunity. If you care to jump into that, embrace that inside. So one of the peculiar things about us somehow is we're kind of an agency of God, in a sense. We're part of the mischief of us is God's doing. What was that? Was that St. John on the cross that said in the end, God's going to have to ask our forgiveness?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. You know who St. John the Cross was? He's a mystic in Spain. A friend of Teresa of Avila. She was more famous, but he was an interesting guy. Have you ever heard of the term clouds of unknowing? That's part of his utterance. That's where we meet God, actually, clouds of unknowing. And so if you can sense that, there's something big goes on through us, where in our location, and it's part of this process of see, at the same time God is everything, it's also actualizing itself. So it's kind of funny. It's like, well, God's perfect but not finished. How's that? You can see right away that your intellect is not going to get you there, or your mental power is not going to handle this too well. So the sooner you get confused or go crazy, the better. The problem is if you lose awareness of that, then you're in trouble. Then you're crazy. But if you can stay aware of it and lose it, then you're in good shape. So I was considering this. It's like, okay, so how does all this move? So all this multiplicity, all this complexity, and another statement I wrote down with it is that form is perishable and love is not. So anything constructed, like the whole created universe, is obsolete eventually. It's like it's doomed to come apart at some point. And so what's left? Well, loving it begin with, plus the experience of being that creation. So I think this has application in our lives. It's not like solve the mysteries of the universe. That's, we can do that. But it's really about us, the mystery of this universe. So, you know, what can you really count on in your life? Is that in the end, they'll just be loving. The loving will have its way. So all the stuff, all the things you make, all the things you think you are, all the things you accomplish, they're going to go. They're part of the, they had to be formed. Anything that's formed is, has a shelf life, I guess. It's going to expire at some point. And sometimes it's even stinks, but that's okay. You're lucky it just falls apart and turns to dust. And that's not so bad. And sometimes it dissolves in a sweetness. So everything you believe you are, you think you are, is going to go someday. See, but so timing is important. The sequence of life is important, so that in order for that to work, you have to completely transfer your identity from your ego to your soul. Not kill your soul, not do away with your soul. You know, love your soul. It's like, you love your car, you love your house, you know, love your ego. It's gonna wear out someday, but while you got it, appreciate it. See. But it's like a garment, so you in your spiritual practice and your work with yourself, in your request to the Holy Spirit, you transfer your sense of self over to your soul, so it's loving. See, and then you don't mind what you could all go. You'd exist. There'd be no fear of loss, no fear of death, no fear of not being important, no fear of not being a success, no fear of not being able to make a living in your private practice. See, that works because your real private practice is your soul. And so that's in secret with God. So anything you do at that soul level, it gets introduced into the wholeness of things and it's brought into manifestation. It's when you try to force it and make it happen out of here based on your limited understanding that you get weird creations in your life. So for our personal experience, it's, but see, you don't get to discount your life either, because the way to turn it into loving is to embrace it fully, and to live it, and to engage it, and to follow it through, and to appreciate your own mistakes, and to appreciate your own successes as a process of your living through them, because that's what transforms into loving. So it's not a thing you disconnect from or separate from, you go into. I mean, just like you may have found things clear up in your life when you really stand up for yourself or confront someone or decide to not be pushed around anymore. I do recommend you do that with grace, however, but things shift because you come alive. So you do that, you hold yourself at the same time you give yourself up. You just embrace your life at the same time you give it up. So it's not a passive approach to life. You can, I guess you can be quite obnoxious. So if you're an obnoxious person, just learn to appreciate it more. See, but also appreciate it so much that you're willing to give it to God. Like, maybe you're really done with it and somebody else could use it. This making sense? Yeah. And I felt really good when I had that thought this morning, so I'm sure. So, it's always good to switch this off some, this outside experience with inside experience. So there's I'll do a different version in my class. Somebody's done a version of this before, but there's always new things. There's a guided process that has to do with the sacred, what I call the sacred heart. You have the physical one, but then there's another one that's with it, it's the sacred space. And it's, once you get in there, it's huge. So, and the entry to it, this heart. And there's a lot of, sacred geometry stuff with this, and a lot of that sort of thing, that kind of metaphysics. It's interesting, but we don't need to go into that. And then, it's not just a physical pump, the physical pump's a manifestation of a spiritual one. So there's a very dynamic center. It's also, you've heard of moles, like in mystery dramas and spy stories?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so in the heart, there's a mole, a god mole. There's a secret agent loving has been placed in there, and it's just dormant, see, till it's time for it to wake up. So you got that? So we're in a spy story now. Like, this mole's gonna wake up and activate things. So, what if some people are just like, yeah, we got that already, we can just skip this. So, there's this other nature we have, though, that has to do with continuity in our life. And so we'll protect who we believe we are, protect who we think we are. There's a reason for this, because there's maybe you're in a dangerous situation and there's no help, so you have to invent stuff to manage it. So we invent that and we identify with it, and then our natural instinct to survive and protect, like somatic self or basic self. So it's going to just naturally protect. It's an unconscious thing. So we have to have some kind of conversation inside to change the identifying as a piece of information as, oh, this is who we are anymore. So there has to be some release or change. Self-forgiveness, to allow this to be released so that the higher self nature can work it. So there's actually it's kind of a logical relationship between the functions in our body and the functions in our psychology and our relationship to life. In other words, when we make meaning out of something, it's associated with the whole functionality of ourselves. Somebody reaching out for something, something bad happens, the effective energy of the block may start interfering with your hand. I know my brother was a sniper in the Army during Vietnam. He was a marksman and went over there to be a sniper, and he disagreed with the war, but didn't know that. So I was talking to him before he went over there, and he says, "That's what's going on. My index finger getting, my right hand's getting numb." So you guys are fast. So I was playing psychic then, so I tuned into it, so I targeted. And you can do that, it would work. And so I asked him how he felt about the war, and he said, well, I don't disagree with it. And so I talked to him about it, and his feeling came back in his stomach. And he actually invented a way to kind of take care of that whole business so he could have an an altruistic reason for being there. Like to get his men back safely instead of, or try to capture the enemy instead of shooting them. Anyway, that's one example of that. Or, you know, you're in love with someone and, you know, it's, like one of my favorite stories, I'll tell a little different than I told in class with my ex-students. I was engaged and was done, she dumped me, actually. Victim stories are powerful. So, you know, I justly felt sorry for myself, angry, in pain. So some years later, after I got into energy work and self-forgiveness and, you know, cleared up a lot of stuff, I was sitting with a friend of mine in graduate school telling war stories, you know, character building experiences. Like when somebody dumped you. Kind of macho thing. And so, you know, I don't know if you know this, but all those beliefs you make and they go unconscious, energetically they go in the field around you. So they're all sitting here, you're looking through them, you're sharing space with them, you're talking to each other, you're flirting. So it's good idea to make them conscious. But they're right here, you look at, they're all within arm's reach. So you see, touch them. You look at a Christmas tree, actually. You know, on Christmas we decorate that tree with all our junk and open So we're doing this dialogue thing I was talking about a while ago, sharing war stories, and my turn I started to talk about this, so when I reflected inside, my attention went right in and right out about here, so out from my heart. So in other words, this judgment had to do with my heart. If it had to do with sexuality, it'd been down here someplace. So I really did love her. It wasn't just for the sex. Anyway, then the block would have been down here. Anyway, so my attention went down, touched it, and as soon as I did, touched it, there was this explosion in the middle of my body. And this energy rushed up through my body. It took me into an ecstatic state. See, so I found that very curious. That this emotionally painful experience, when I brought it into the light of the dialogue and the self-forgiveness, it not only dissolved, but it released this energy. I guess I have to go to the next step of that story, so it has application. So this part of when you accept something fully. I was curious, so mine came in and had a similar kind of emotional pain that they get hold of it. So this goes into changing the reality instead of trying to fix the pain. See, so I asked her if she wanted to try something, and she said yes. And so I said, just focus into the pain and keep taking your awareness into it until all there is the pain. Yeah, it's going straight at something instead of trying to avoid it. And just become 100%. Well, as soon as she reached 100%, there was a similar action inside of her, a similar explosion. Not as dramatic, but it fit the situation. And so, wow, that's amazing. If I were to make a theory out of this, I said, well, pain is trapped joy. And there's a belief is formed that's constricting the flow of the joy, or the movement of the joy, or the activation of the Merkaba or whatever. So that became pretty exciting to me, and very clear that, oh, you know, the pain seems pretty severe sometimes, but it has to do with some kind of restriction. And so when we take it out, so the 100% pain is no judgment. So as soon as it goes no judgment, it converts to loving. That was my experience with it, and many times through the years of working with people. So it's that kind of constellation of judgments that as we turn our attention towards our heart, we're gonna run into that stuff. Well, if there's still a protection going, there's gonna be a limitation on how much you can open your heart and be vulnerable. Does that make sense? Because this is a guard at the door. So we have to convert it somehow to be open. Now there's a phase between letting go of the guard at the door and getting sufficiently awake in your loving so that your loving makes you safe. See, a condition of loving is you're safe. More than it makes you safe. In that place, you're safe. Because all it can take is everything else. See, and it isn't you that you borrowed or that you're made up or, you know, was given to you by the karmic board or whatever. So, is this making sense? Yeah. So I'm going to do a guided process here that goes through, gives an opportunity to illuminate some of the guards at the gate and change that inside. And then we'll go on into the sacred heart and see if anybody's home.